Right, what's happening, people? Definitely not the normal type of video that I'm bringing you guys from the channel today, but as many of you have now heard, Mykhailo Mudryk has failed a drug test. It was all over the internet sort of late through the night when it leaked and early this morning, and since then, Chelsea Football Club have confirmed it. The FA have confirmed that the player has been suspended. Mykhailo Mudryk's come out and spoke about it, and again, very, very similar to when I was covering the whole Enzo Fernandez situation that took place just before the start of the season. It is a really tricky subject to tackle. It's a sensitive subject, and ultimately I can only really sit here and do my best. And if I'm being completely transparent and honest with you, it's not really something that I want to be talking about. You lot know I like to keep it very positive on this channel, but at the same time as that, there will be maybe 100 of you sat there watching me right now, knowing that you have messaged me today saying, when are you going to cover the Mykhailo Mudryk situation and whatnot? And ultimately, I do want this to be a channel where I do address situations like this and at least give my sixpence for what it's worth. But, you know, the sources are saying that this test was taken in late October, and ironically, due to my interest and involvement in boxing, this is actually a subject that I know a little bit more about probably than your average football content creator. UCAD, who he's failed the test with, is a governing body, or a testing body I should say, that I myself have had to do multiple drugs tests with after boxing fights. So I know about the process, and one thing that I do know is that it takes about a month to get your test results back. So that means that if it was taken in late October, the fact that we're only now hearing about it kind of does make sense to me, because it probably would have been around early December that the test results came back. As I said, it usually takes about a month, but it can be up to 6 weeks or whatever. Early December, and then obviously it's probably been managed a little bit. We have been hearing, haven't we, that Mykhailo Mudryk was ill, but it's now transpired that there was what they call an adverse finding in the test, and I'll get into that and explain it, but it does ultimately mean that you failed a drugs test. Now, I believe it would have been a random urine test that Mykhailo Mudryk had taken. I am just assuming that. I don't know that for a fact. What I do know for a fact is that it does take a month or so to come back. So if the test was in late October and we're seeing Mudryk play and perform well, by the way, during the month of November, maybe that is why we haven't seen him since the start of December, rather than it being due to the illness. Now, firstly, this video is just going to be my thoughts on the situation, because the situation is still vague, and at the time of recording, which is 2 p.m. on Thursday the 17th, it hasn't officially been announced as to what substance, I should say, that the player has failed the test on, yeah? So he could have failed it, for all we know, through smoking an illegal substance, a party drug. He could have done an Adrian Mutu, right? But it is heavily rumoured that the substance is Meldonium, and that is a substance that I actually know and have heard of myself. The most common, or the most sort of infamous case of an athlete using Meldonium was the tennis player. What's her name? Maria Sharapova. I don't know much about tennis, by the way, but she's a big name. She was caught using it, and it's a drug that's been banned for best part of a decade now, really. Now, the reason I say that I know it is because there is actually a notorious drugs cheat in boxing, Alexander Povetkin. He's failed multiple tests, and he failed for this exact drug. And the first thing that you'll see and hear around this case is obviously innocent until proven guilty. But the problem that we, as both supporters of Chelsea Football Club and as supporters of Mykhailo Mudryk, which I want to put on record right now, Mykhailo Mudryk has come out and said that he didn't knowingly take this substance, and I have no reason to doubt him and not believe him. But the problem that we have is with a failed drug test, it isn't actually innocent until proven guilty. It's more actually guilty until proven innocent. And when the drug shows up in your system, ultimately you are responsible for that drug being in there, regardless of whether you knowingly took it or whether it was a mistake. And if it was through contamination, which can happen, by the way, you can definitely fail drug tests through contamination. You need to be able to prove, or at least be able to give a real strong case to prove that it was through contamination. And then what will happen is it will either affect your punishment or maybe reduce your ban or something like that. Now, the drug Meldonium, it's much like most performance-enhancing drugs, it's not one that was originally created as a performance-enhancing drug, you know. I can think of drugs like clenbuterol, for example, that a lot of boxers have failed drug tests for. That was originally, I think, created as a drug to combat asthma, but then athletes started to realise that they were getting performance-enhancing benefits from those drugs, and Meldonium is exactly the same as that. And listen, people are making a lot of jokes about Mudryk at the moment and stuff like that, and I get it, like, it's football and rival fans have banter back and forth and stuff like that, but I personally do feel a bit of sadness at this situation. I don't actually think this situation's funny, because I think that if this kid has taken it and he's done it unknowingly, you know, he's accidentally, he's fucked up. Say, for example, he's bought a substance over the counter or something like that, and it has it in, and, you know, he's moved over from Ukraine, maybe he doesn't read well in English. I'm giving you hypothetical scenarios here. Then I feel bad for him, because either way, whether or not he has bad intentions here, he's fucked. He's in a bad situation here, because there are times that athletes have tested positive for certain drugs. I'm going to give you an example, right? Any UK boxing fans will have heard of Dillian Whyte. And Dillian Whyte had I think it was a 4-year ban reduced to a 2-year ban from boxing. UKAD, the same guys that have tested Mykhailo Mudryk, found him to have a prohibited substance in his system. Yet Dillian Whyte was able to prove that substance came from a old pre-workout that a lot of people might have heard of, called, some people called it Jacked, some people called it Jack 3D, but basically they sold it in gyms behind the counters. They sold it in high street stores like Holland and Barrett, and it got proven that there was contamination and this substance was in that supplement. However, regardless of that, Dillian Whyte still served that ban. So some of it does come down to naivety rather than knowingly feeling like you're cheating. And at the same time as that, you've got to note that a footballer, and especially one at the stature of club like Chelsea Football Club as Mykhailo Mudryk is, will have a lot of expert advice when it comes to the supplements that he's putting in his body. Definitely way more than the average boxer does, and it's really sad because I've seen a genuine improvement from Mykhailo Mudryk so far this season. He's not become a first-team starter in the league for us, but 6 goal involvements in 4 starts in the Conference League so far, a couple of more goal involvements in the League Cup. When he's come off the bench, I do believe that he's actually contributed to matches. He's had a couple of assists, and I think that things were going in the right direction, definitely, for him. I don't think he had lived up to his price tag or anything like that, but I think that he deserves credit. Enzo Maresca deserves credit for what we had seen out of him. Now, failed drug tests in football are nowhere near as regular as they are in combat sport, but they do happen. The one that comes to mind for me is usually nandrolone. Nandrolone's a drug that Edgar Davids, Pep Guardiola, Jaap Stam, a few more players have failed drug tests for nandrolone, and most of those players failed later on during their career. And what it actually does, nandrolone, is it increases red blood cells, bone density, muscle endurance. It basically makes you stronger. So when your body's fatiguing, when you're getting older, that can be a drug that footballers have tested positive for in the past, and it gives it some sort of weight as to, okay, that could be, if we're joining dots together, why that is in their system, because it would align with their bodies weakening, and that's why that drug could have potentially been in those players' systems to prolong their career. And another reason that you will get athletes taking performance-enhancing drugs or drugs that are on a banned list is to reduce injuries. So say, for example, who remembers when McGregor suffered the horror leg break or whatever it was in his fight against Dustin Poirier, and then all of a sudden he withdraws from the UFC testing pool, and the next time you see him, all of a sudden he's bulked up and whatever, and a lot of people accused McGregor at that time of taking HGH, human growth hormone, and one of the things that will do is it will make you gain muscle mass, but also one of the things that it will do is it will actually enhance and speed up your recovery from serious injuries. Now, Mykhailo Mudryk hasn't had any serious injuries or anything like that, so one thing I want to get on record here is I'm just giving those of you who don't have much of an insight into performance-enhancing drugs a little bit more of an insight that I have, because I'm obviously aware of it through being a long-term follower of combat sports, and obviously that is pretty much the sort of sport or type of sport that you see this stuff carried out and most prominent in, whereas obviously football you don't really have that in as much. I'm seeing stuff online of people like showing body transformations and stuff like that of Mykhailo Mudryk and saying that he's bulking up and whatnot, and showing all the work he's doing in the gym. That doesn't hold much substance to me, to be honest. He's a young lad. You do fill out into your body. He's moved from the Ukrainian league to the Premier League, which obviously straight away you'll look at and you'll go, right, it is obviously a more physical league. So him being in the gym is no proof that he was on like steroids or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, obviously he's in the gym, he's trying to strengthen himself up, build up his core and stuff like that, because it's a more physically demanding league, and a player like Mykhailo Mudryk, who is going to rely on explosive pace and stuff like that, is probably going to need also that added body strength, so he would have been doing that regardless. I don't think that plays any role in that at all. A lot of people are also saying that, hold on, it's only the A sample that has come back positive, and let's test the B sample. Well, let me tell you, I've been following boxing for 15, 20 years, something like that, and there's always the A sample, the B sample, and that's why I assume that this is a urine test as well that he's failed, because you do two pots, you do an A sample and a B sample, and in the whole time that I've been following boxing, combat sport, I've never known a B sample come back different to the A sample. So I think that the B sample is probably going to come back with that substance in it, if it is the substance that is being heavily reported. And if it is that, then listen, these types of situations are long and drawn out. They go through the courts. Athletes are often sort of appealing not having knowingly taken that substance, and therefore I think that we will see Mykhailo Mudryk and Mykhailo Mudryk's team do the exact same thing. And I think that maybe because the amount of money in football, it might not be as long a drawn-out process as in boxing, because with the backing of a club like Chelsea, we might have the legal aid to be able to speed up that process, where some of these boxers fail, they just can't afford the court fees and stuff like that and whatever, and it longs out. But what I would tell you is I'm pretty much 99% sure that if you had to ask me, put your last pound on it, does Mykhailo Mudryk play for Chelsea again this season? I would say no. I don't think there's any chance that he plays for Chelsea again this season. If you said to me, does he play for Chelsea again within the next 12 months? I'm sorry to say, I'd also say no. I'd probably say no, because I've seen these cases draw out over years. So I don't know, if it is that substance that was in his system, then it is going to be a long drawn out one. So yeah, really, really disappointing situation, which obviously we know will rumble on and whatnot. I don't want to be part of anyone that jumps on the player and stuff like this, because I know that these things in life, like, they can happen. They can definitely be mistakes. Like, I know full well athletes that have failed drug tests through contamination, through simple mistakes, through naivety and things like this. And when you're dealing with young footballers and stuff like this, it can very much happen. So I'm not going to rule out that possibility. I'm not going to point any fingers, make any accusations, anything like that at all. And obviously, no matter what, if you take what Mykhailo Mudryk has said at face value, which is that he's not knowingly done any of this, then you can't help but feel for the player, because this is something that's going to really, really stifle his football career and his Chelsea career and whatnot. But disappointing situation. It's going to definitely affect us on the pitch, not so much in the Premier League, but in the Conference League. But the good news is, now we'll probably see a lot more of Tyreek George, who's a player that I really do believe in, and I really think is a player out of the academy that can go on and do good things, and he'll get a lot more game time, definitely in the Conference League and whatnot. But yeah, it's a situation that's still unfolding. A tricky one and a sensitive one to tackle, but one that I suppose I just hope for the best possible outcome in. I don't know what the outcome is. I'm interested to hear your lot's thoughts on it. Today I was supposed to be dropping the Shamrock Rovers preview, which I did with Josh yesterday before this news broke. I'm going to drop that tomorrow, and also we're going to speak about the title charge, whether there is a title challenge and whatnot. It's a bit of a debate there, because I obviously said it the other day. A lot of you guys disagree with it, so me and Josh definitely go into a bit of a debate as to why or why not Chelsea should be perceived, I should say, as title challengers. But as you can tell, I'm finding this one a bit awkward, people. You know I am, but I want to be a channel of the people and get stuff out to you lot as and when you request it, and you have requested in, I was about to say hundreds, but definitely over 100 messages I've had asking me to do this video. So there's my thoughts on it. Yeah, hope you lot are all well, and I will get the Shamrock Rovers preview up for you guys tomorrow. And it will have to be tomorrow before the press conference, because I need to pack a bag now, because I'm flying to Saudi in a couple of hours. So there for the Fury Usyk fight. That's mad. Looking forward to that one. But yeah, on a bit of a darker tone today, isn't it? The whole content, Mark. It is what it is. Right, people, I will see you all in the next one.